This episode is brought to you by Sterling Soap Company. How often do you think about your soap? Well, if you answered, not much, maybe you should. You see, a lot of what passes for soap in stores is technically not soap, according to the FDA's definition. It's full of lab-created chemicals and detergents because, well, it's cheaper to make. Now, what if you could buy natural soap made from natural ingredients like tallow, palm oil, coconut oil, and scented with essential oils, and for just a little more than you'd pay for grocery store soap? Sterling Soap is 100% natural, and with a wide variety of bath soaps, shave soaps, beard balm, lotions, and cologne, there's a product and a scent for just about everybody. Check them out for yourself at sterlingsoap.com. That's STIRLING soap.com.
This is Basketball History 101 with Rick Loayza.
Welcome back to Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network. I am your host, Rick Loayza, and this is the podcast where we bring to life some of the forgotten stories from basketball history. We are bringing old school basketball to a new school audience. And today we bring you the story of one of the greatest nicknames in all of sports. In fact, this nickname is so embedded into the psyche of most basketball fans that many do not even know the player's real first name. And of course, I am talking about Magic Johnson. And full disclosure here, Magic Johnson is my favorite player of all time. He is the person who made me fall in love with the game of basketball to begin with. I remember being around 10 or 11 years old and I was watching television. As I was changing the channels, I came upon a Lakers game. Although at the time, I could not even have told you who the two teams were that were playing. But something made me take my thumb off the button on the remote control, and I lingered on Channel 9 in LA. The thing that I remember the most was watching this one player bringing the basketball down court for a fast break. He beat the first defender and then he made his way toward the basket. He gets about one step inside the free throw line. He looked to his right and then passed the ball to his left, where a teammate caught the ball in motion and went up and dunked it. The crowd exploded with excitement, and I held my breath for a moment because I had never seen that before. I had never seen a no-look pass. In that single moment, I was absolutely hooked on basketball. The player who made that pass started high-fiving the player who scored as they made their way back to get on defense. The player who made the pass was number 32, and the player who scored, as far as I knew, was just number 42. Within the next few minutes, I learned from the Lakers announcer, Hall of Famer Chick Hearn, that the player that made the pass was Magic Johnson, and the player that scored was James Worthy. They scored the basket so fast that I could not believe it. That was the fastest fast break I had ever seen. Of course, I was only around 10 or 11 years old and had never seen professional basketball before. My entire basketball experience was playing pickup ball at school with other 10-year-olds. When the game ended, I just knew that I had to watch the next one. I checked the sports section of the newspaper and found out that the Lakers were going to play again in 2 more days, and I made sure that I was sitting in front of my television to see the tip-off of the next game. From then on, I was watching practically every game for the rest of the season, and every other season for the next 40 years. But for me, it all goes back to that first game when I watched Magic Johnson. Even though I knew practically nothing about basketball, I knew that he was playing the game at a different level from nearly everyone else in the league. He was making other professionals look like amateurs. He was absolutely mesmerizing to watch. And this story is actually about how he got his nickname, Magic. Now for that, I have to take you all the way back to the summer of 1974. That was the summer before Earvin Johnson was set to start high school. Even as a 15-year-old, his reputation preceded him. Some were already calling him the best 15-year-old player in the entire state of Michigan. And he was headed to Everett High School in Lansing, Michigan. Coach George Fox was about to inherit the greatest player that he would ever coach. And it is not even close. The fact that nearly 50 years years later, he is still interviewed about this short 3-year period in his life when he coached a teenage Earvin Johnson, tells you everything you need to know about the impact that one player can make on an entire program. For Coach Fox, he knew that he had something special when he went over to the campus of Michigan State University, where the Michigan State players held pickup games that were open to anyone, but you had to earn your way onto the court. Coach Fox was there with his own son who was playing in these pickup games, but he also wanted to see this young Earvin Johnson get to play and get a glimpse of who he was going to be able to coach for the next 3 years. Well, at just 15 years old, Earvin was already around 6'7" or 201 centimeters, and he dominated those pickup games. I mean, he was playing against Division I university players, and Earvin was outplaying all of them. These players were 4 and 5 years older, and it was pretty obvious that Earvin was already better than they were. The second time that Earvin showed up to play pickup at Michigan State, those Michigan State players made sure that Earvin got onto their team. What everyone in that gym could not understand about this young Earvin was how he handled the ball with such expertise while also being exceptionally tall. Back in those days, anyone who was as tall as Earvin played the power forward or center positions because they were the big men. The point guard duties were almost always given to the smallest player on the team. Now, the smaller player can more easily protect the ball by keeping their dribble low to the ground. And of course, it's easy for a shorter player because that player himself is lower to the ground. But here was this giant running the fast break like a small guard. And because of his height, he was able to go into the post for short hook shots or bank shots. He was also able to win the rebounding battle since he was usually taller than his man. While Earvin always loved making the pass that led to a basket, he was also an extremely capable scorer in his own right. In many ways, he was a one-man fast break. He was able to get many defensive rebounds because of his athleticism and height. Then, rather than pass the ball to the designated point guard, he just took off himself and led the fast break on his own. As he got closer to the basket, he might fake a pass to get his defender to jump sideways and then just lay it up for an easy 2 points. He was an absolute revelation. The question was, would George Fox play the tallest player at point guard? In the summer of 1974, there was no easy answer to that question. Now, after the break, we will be right back with the answer to whether or not Earvin played point guard.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
At the Sports History Network, we're all about sports yesteryear, and so we're so pleased to introduce you to Row One, an online memorabilia gallery and shop that brings your sports history to life anywhere. The Row One gallery includes over 5,200 gorgeously reproduced prints of team posters, game program covers, game tickets, advertisements, and more in baseball, pro and college football, pro and college basketball, and more. And any gallery item may be printed in a variety of sizes on wood, metal, canvas, acrylic, or poster paper. And in Row One shop, check out the thousands more of unique items with the retro and historical designs dating back to 1876, including t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, phone cases, mugs, blankets, pillows, towels, and even shower curtains. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com, ROW1, for access to the full Row One catalog and for gallery prints and gift items, plus get a 15% discount off all prints on the Row One Pictorium Gallery with coupon code SHN15. Follow the link on the show notes.
Hello, sports history fans. I'm Ross from the podcast Pigskin Tales. You're about to jump into another thrilling sports history moment, but first, let's dive into today's sponsor, just in time for the holiday season. Introducing Art of Words, the brainchild of word artist Dan Duffy from Philadelphia. Dan meticulously crafts stunning images by handwriting relevant words from some of the greatest sports moments in time. These unique budget-friendly illustrations are the perfect gift, sparking cherished memories and capturing hearts. Choose from city skylines, sports, history, and musicians to find a piece for everyone. And here's the exciting part. For that sports fanatic in your life, Gift them a piece of their favorite team or player's history. Art of Words tells a compelling story. Explore collegiate stadiums, each meticulously crafted with every football victory etched into words. Or venture into baseball stadiums, handwritten with every player from the team's illustrious history. My favorite on the site is Bryce Harper 2021 MVP year. Because I'm a big stats guy, I think that's one of the coolest things ever. Check it out. Don't wait. Order a print today for yourself and your loved one this holiday season. Transform your wall into a gallery of captivating art and surprise your family and friends with a print of their own. Use code SHN15 at artofwords.com for a 15% discount on your order in November and December. Visit Art of Words, where words magically transform into stunning art, evoking cherished memories and touching the hearts of those who you care about. Again, use the code SHN15 for 15% off at artofwords.com.
Welcome back to the show, and let us continue with the story of how Earvin Johnson got his nickname, Magic. As I mentioned before the break, Earvin came into high school with a bang. He was so friendly and likable that everyone just loved Earvin, and he stood out from the crowd as he was the tallest kid in the entire school. He made friends easily and was a natural leader, and he was a walking ray of sunshine. There wasn't a single student who didn't like Magic. Well, maybe there was a couple that didn't like him. About the only players that didn't care for the presence of Earvin Johnson were two seniors on the basketball team who were expecting to step into that leadership role and be the team leaders since they were the oldest and most experienced players on the team. Now, you can imagine their chagrin when they realized that this brand new player was going to have the ball in his hands most of the game. But outside of that, everyone was excited to have Earvin on the team at Everett High School. Now, while all of this was happening, there was a young sports writer for the Lansing State Journal by the name of Fred Stabley Jr. He was the son of the sports information director at Michigan State University, Fred Stabley Sr. Stabley, the sports writer, was completely familiar with Michigan sports scene, having grown up in the area and particularly with Lansing area sports. The city of Lansing, Michigan is not only the home to Everett High School where Earvin played, but it is also the home of Michigan State University, which was across town. Stabley would occasionally cover high school basketball games for the newspaper, but with Earvin Johnson coming in, Stabley was going to cover practically every single one of the Everett High School games. The hype that surrounded this new player was beyond belief. Everyone was talking about Earvin Johnson, and he was only 15 years old, and some were already predicting 3 consecutive state titles with Earvin on the team. If you were old enough to remember the amount of hype that LeBron James had when he was still playing at St. Vincent St. Mary High School in Akron, Ohio, well, that is the same kind of hype that surrounded Earvin Johnson at Everett High School. Tickets were sold out for every high school game for Everett in those 3 years, both home and away. Earvin was the show that everyone wanted to see. Many high schools even moved their games to larger gyms so that they could accommodate the crowds. People were even scalping tickets for double and triple the original price. Everyone had to see this phenom. And to answer that question from earlier, yes, George Fox played Earvin at point guard part of the time. Now, the reason it was only part of the time is that depending on the matchup, he might ask Earvin to play power forward or center to better neutralize what the opponent was trying to do. But make no mistake, Earvin always had the green light to take the ball and lead a fast break. In just his second game of high school, Everett was playing Parkside High, and Earvin scored 19 points in the first half with a ton of rebounds and assists to go with it. Now, it is difficult to look up the exact statistics because high school box scores back in the 1970s were just not kept very well. Most schools only tracked points and fouls. In any case, Earvin dominated the game, barely scoring in the second half because they had such a huge lead. He ended up finishing with 21 points for the game and very likely a triple-double as far as anyone can estimate. We just cannot confirm that because of the lack of the box score, but he was absolutely mesmerizing. Sports writer Fred Stabley was in the stands and could not believe what he was watching. He had been watching Michigan high school basketball for years and could not recall seeing a better high school player. Now, Stabley was already known for giving players nicknames. It was kind of his thing. So he knew that he had to come up with something special for Earvin Johnson. As Stabley himself tells it in an interview back from the 1980s, he approached Earvin Johnson after the game and said something like, "Hey Earvin, we need to give you a nickname. The Big E is out because of Elvin Hayes, and Dr. J is out because of Julius Erving. So how about Magic?" Well, Earvin was only 15 years old and said, "Sounds good to me, Mr. Stabley." He had absolutely no idea at the time that Magic would become his name for the rest of his life. But Stabley waited a while before putting the name Magic into his articles. He wanted to wait and see if Earvin would continue to dominate these games. After about a month, when it became obvious that Earvin was indeed the best player in the entire state of Michigan, he went ahead and started using the nickname in his articles. And in his articles, he referred to him as Earvin Magic Johnson, and the name caught on like wildfire. Soon, the public address announcers were introducing him in public at the games as Earvin Magic Johnson. Pretty soon, fans were simply calling him Magic Johnson or just Magic. It was like the name was meant to be. It was simply a perfect nickname for his style of basketball, and he lived up to it. In 1977, in his senior year, he led Everett High School to a Michigan State championship. And 2 years later, in 1979, he led Michigan State University to the National Basketball Championship over Larry Bird and the Indiana State Sycamores. And then just 1 year after that, in 1980, he led the Los Angeles Lakers to the first of 5 NBA championships. That is a 4-year run like few others can match. A high school, a college, and an NBA championship. Some of my best memories from my youth was going to Lakers games with my father when I was a teenager. Magic was still on the Lakers, and sometimes during timeouts they would play that song by the group The Lovin' Spoonful, and the song was called "Do You Believe in Magic?" Well, I certainly did. Well, that is how Earvin Johnson became Magic Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Come back next week when we share another story from the history of basketball. That's next time on Basketball History 101, part of the Sports History Network, the headquarters of Sports Yesteryear. Go to sportshistorynetwork.com to find out more about this and other sports history podcasts. If you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And check out our page on Facebook. It's called Basketball History 101 Podcast. There you will find short historical posts, and I'll also announce there when new episodes come out. I want to thank my producer and editor, Jacob Loayza. Join us each week as we continue to mine the history of basketball for more great stories from the past. Take care and see you soon.
The Sports History Network presents Who Invented This Sport?, a sports origins podcast that explores the birth and evolution of sports as diverse as basketball and bobsledding. Discover the inventors, innovators, and pioneers who brought sports to the world. Go to your favorite podcast provider to find Who Invented This Sport?, your sports origins podcast and part of the Sports History Network.